I challenged myself to see how much gold I could make in 100 days of Stardew Valley, starting from absolutely nothing. No mods, just straight 1.6 Stardew Valley. Before we begin, I must say I'm definitely not a speedrunner of this game, and I would love to hear what I could have done better in the comments below. The rules for this challenge are very simple. I cannot use any glitches or exploits for gold, such as the animal ID exploit, and we will measure the final total in the total earnings section. I went into this challenge with little to no speedrunning experience of this game, so what strange ways will I make gold? Let's find out. The first roadblock of the challenge is to pick what farm type to start the challenge, with so many factors to consider for each one, and in the end I decided to go with the New Meadowlands farm, mainly due to the fact that you start with 2 chickens, which offer some nice early gold, with the main downside being the lack of free parsnips, which is instead replaced by hay. I started by clearing out an area in front of my farmhouse and constructed a chest to tackle the early game inventory problems. In Pierre's I purchased 25 parsnip seeds, making sure to plant and water them before running out of stamina. The lack of energy meant I could only forage for the remainder of today, but I did manage to find my first artifact, which I could donate to the museum, which granted me 250 more gold to spend, which of course I had to buy some kale and parsnips. There was nothing else I could do with day 1, so with 0 energy, I went to bed. I was back to watering this morning, and as you would know, day 2 is when you can receive the old rod from Willy, allowing us to start fishing, which will be my main moneymaker at the moment. I did decide to craft a chest to place up at the mountain lake, to store any fish I didn't have any room for, and of course I spent the entire day fishing up here. I managed to find a diamond, and overnight I reached fishing level 2. The sooner I reach level 5 fishing, the sooner I'll be able to get 10% more bonus gold when I sell my fish. Luckily for me, it was raining today, so I didn't have to water any of my crops. Overnight, I managed to get around 2,000 gold, and I went straight to the river to catch the catfish, which sells for a decent amount, but I was going to have to save it for the community centre. I still wasn't sure which method I would go for this run, the community centre or the Joja route, so for now I decided to keep both options open. And once again, I spent the entire rest of day 3 in the mountain lake fishing. Overnight, all this fishing upped me to fishing level 4. I did really want to reach level 5 now, but it'll be alright for now. After receiving my first geode from a treasure chest yesterday, Clint was at my door this morning to hand me the recipe for the furnace. Day 4 started with watering my crops. Only one more day and I'll have a load of parsnips ready. The early plans I had right now was to grind out the mines once they opened to craft a ridiculous amount of sprinklers, to grow a butt ton of kale, and then eventually strawberries once the egg festival rolls around. But before then, I started with clearing out some trees around the land. I was going to need a crazy amount of wood later on for the notorious kegs, so there was no better time to start chopping than now. Using the gold I had, I purchased 27 kale seeds. Why kale seeds, you may ask? Well, they actually offer the best farming experience for this point of the game, and I was really going to need it if I was going to reach farming level 6 to build quality sprinklers. Instead of selling the chicken eggs, I decided to keep them for energy, in order to fully plant and water them, and I wrapped up the day back in the mountain lake fishing once again. Marnie was at my door this morning, and she allowed me to adopt a cat friend to join me in my journey to become a millionaire. Today was the day of my first parsnip harvest. I chose not to sell them at the moment, but to keep them for energy in the mines. Talking about the mines, today was the first day they opened, so I wasted no time and went to the mines to collect my rusty sword from Marlon and begun the dive. My goal? To get down as far as possible and collect as much copper as I could. Also, finding an ancient seed at this point would be great, but it would be very unlikely. It was a lot of work today, and I managed to reach floor 20 before I called it quits. I managed to come out with 26 pieces of copper and some other goods. I did place a furnace at the surface to smelt some ores whilst I was in there, and before the end of the night I had enough copper bars to send my pickaxe off in the morning. That's if I remember. Luckily for me, it was raining again today, which would save me a load of energy, which I used to chop a bunch of trees around the farm. Using the gold I had acquired, I purchased 38 more kale seeds and planted them all back on the farm. I also did receive 9 cauliflower seeds as a reward for donating items to the museum. The majority of day 6 was spent at the ocean to catch more fish. I was mainly after the eels as it could spawn while it was raining, and they do sell for a decent amount. The only issue with planting so many crops is the watering, which takes up a load of time and energy every single day, but that's just necessary in this challenge. I was then back in the mines today, mainly for more copper, and to reach the lower levels of course. I managed to reach floor 30 and began farming floor 21 for as much copper as I could find. I ended the day with 74 pieces of copper and 28 pieces of coal, and I also crafted another furnace to speed up smelting. Yet more watering on day 8, This would be painful now, but it'll be worth it in a few days. Today I managed to reach floor 40 in the mines, before I chose to head back home and do some foraging for the spring foraging bundle inside the community centre whenever I unlocked it. And to no one's surprise, I spent the remainder of the day fishing. Overnight I reached farming level 2, allowing me to build sprinklers, which I don't usually make, but in this particular challenge will be crucial to ensure the maximum progress. Day 9 started with even more watering and the construction of 2 mayonnaise machines, allowing for even more profit from the chicken eggs. Mayor Lewis showed me around the abandoned community centre today, so I read the plaque and spent the entire rest of the day fishing up at the mountain lake. I needed as much gold as I could for the upcoming egg festival, for strawberries of course, which at 100 gold apiece weren't cheap. It was a relief to see a bunch of kale was ready for collection today, but I still had a bunch more growing, which I did have to water before I began the adventures of today. I ran straight over to the Wizard's Tower to unlock the community centre bundles. The rest of the day I took to the frozen levels of the mines to collect as much iron as possible. I only made it down to floor 45, as 47 was a monster floor. And I spent the rest of the day resetting floor 41 for as much iron as I could get, using the kale I'd got for energy. In the end I came out with 116 pieces of iron ore, not bad. Yet more watering begun the day. However, I made a trip over to Robin's to ask her to build me a fish pond, which may sound strange, but don't worry, I have plans to fill it with largemouth bass, and eventually the legendary fish, which Rose sells for a crazy amount, especially for the early game. I had 2 more artifacts to donate to the museum today, which led me to the Cindersap forest where I picked up Robin's axe, which she would give me 250 gold for. I did also receive my first prize ticket today, which I could use to redeem 12 carrot seeds, which were great for energy in the mines. I was running seriously low on storage, so I headed into Pierre's to buy the backpack upgrade for only 2,000 gold, and of course a bunch more kale, which I planted back home. After some light foraging, I had all the 4 pieces to complete the spring foraging bundle in the community centre, which will help me towards another money making method I had in mind, tea saplings. Using all the iron and copper I'd collected in the mines, I could craft 10 sprinklers, allowing me to have 40 crops all automatically watered for me, saving me much time and energy. It was getting late, but I managed to lay them all out and plant the spring seeds. I was even happier today to see a load more kale was ready, upping me to another level in farming. Using some of the bars I had smelted overnight, I made 5 more sprinklers. In Pierre's I purchased 28 cauliflowers, and asked Clint to upgrade my pickaxe to copper for 2,000 gold and 5 copper bars. With the remaining gold I purchased 32 kale seeds, which I could place under the new sprinklers. But unfortunately, I still had a load of kale to still water. I took 300 pieces of wood to rebuild the bridge on the beach. This would actually be worth it this time, as it holds a lot of forage which sells for a decent amount. Especially with the upcoming egg festival tomorrow, I had to sell pretty much anything I could to afford a butt ton of strawberry seeds. I did reach level 4 farming overnight, which unlocked the preserve jars, which I would need to turn the row into something worth to sell. Day 13 started with Demetrius asking me whether I wanted fruits or bats in the farm cave. I chose mushrooms, as with the 1.6 update it comes with a free dehydrator, which is useful for other things than just the cave. Demetrius' arrival means I have reached 25,000 gold in total earnings, which is a great achievement for only 13 days in. Spring 13 is of course the day of the annual egg festival, so after watering my crops I headed into town. At the stand I purchased 37 strawberries, which was a shame as I definitely wanted more. If you're wondering how the festival went, I won and received a straw hat. Was this ever in any doubt? Before the end of the night I planted them into pre-watered places and went to bed. Luckily it was raining today, which would save me one more day of pain watering. I was over at Clint's to collect my copper axe and use some carrots to head back to the mines to reach the lower floors. What was frustrating is there was a monster floor on floor 46, so I had to slowly take down them all and wasted a load of time. The day didn't go too bad after all. I made it all the way down to floor 55 with a load more iron, and I spent the rest of the day back on floor 21 resetting for as much copper as possible. As you would know, I need both copper and iron for tappers and kegs, so yeah, I was going to be here a lot. Day 15 was salmonberry season, which I would take full advantage of for 2 reasons: the money and to help increase my foraging level, as I really wanted to craft tappers ASAP. If I was going to have an empire of kegs, I definitely needed tappers. I started day 15 at the mountain lake to try and catch the legend, until I realised it had to be raining and I would need to be fishing level 10, so yeah. I then foraged for some spring onions and went around collecting as many salmon berries as I could for all that juicy foraging experience. I was back on the farm in the late evening to use up the remainder of my energy chopping trees and clearing more debris, and I did make my way over to the farm cave to steal the dehydrator. It was great to see I had reached fishing level 7 overnight, and foraging level 4 to unlock the tapper, which I'll have to get straight to making for that oak resin. It was raining today and my fish pond had produced its first roe, so I made a preserve jar to begin turning it into an aged one. I also began the construction of a tree farm. I was going to need an insane amount of wood for kegs, and future me would be thankful I made this. Over at Clint's I had him open up a bunch of geodes for as many artifacts for the museum. I was also hoping he'd give me a prismatic shard, for the galaxy sword of course, but I didn't manage to get one. And the rest of the day was spent resetting floor 21 for copper. Yet more watering began the day, as well as a bunch more kale which I shipped. I made 2 tappers and placed them on some oak trees, ready for oak resin. I spent the entire day clearing out debris on the farm. I'll be doing this fairly often, as I'll need the space for crops and kegs later on. I was relieved to see overnight I had reached farming level 5, which will allow all crops to be worth 10% more. I'm blessed by rain again today, which was even better considering I had a bunch of kale and some cauliflowers ready to collect. Since it was raining, I could fish for the catfish in the river. This time I used the bait maker to hopefully catch even more. I wasn't going to ship them, I was going to save them for now, once I had the fish smoker, as they'll sell for double the price. I received my second prize ticket earlier in the day, and that meant I was shown a cutscene with Mr. Key dropping mystery boxes across the valley. These will be extremely useful for this early on in the game. You know how it is now, watering and collecting crops again this morning. I turned the spring forageables back into more spring seeds, which I hope to turn into tea saplings soon. And then I was back to the mines to reach even further down. Today I made it all the way down to floor 65, and I decided to go back to floor 21 to reset for even more copper. Day 20 I watered my crops and went to Clint's to open 2 mystery boxes, and also to send my axe off to an upgrade to copper. In Pierre's I spent all my gold on 166 kale seeds, and crafted up 5 more sprinklers to help me water them. I had to clear out a new area to plant the crops, as the area in front of my farmhouse was already full. As you can imagine, planting them took almost all of day 20, and I spent the rest of it fishing in the ocean. Day 21 was the first strawberry harvest, and was also the first day of the incredible watering saga. Later in the day I made my way over to the museum to donate a few new artifacts. And back in the mines I made it down another 10 floors to floor 75 before resetting floor 41 for some more iron. What was even better is overnight I made it to farming level 6, which would allow me to build quality sprinklers, which I was going to need a lot of if I was going to be a millionaire by 100 days. It was a simpler day 22. I picked up my axe from Clint and had him smash open some geodes for any new artifacts he may have. And I wrapped up the day chopping trees in the Cindersap forest. Day 23 I was back to the mines, to which I made it to floor 80, and proceeded to farm floor 81 for as much gold and fibre as I needed, which I was definitely going to need a load of for quality sprinklers and tea saplings. I finished the day with over 70 gold and a level up in the mining skill. Day 24 was the day of the flower dance, but before then I had a lot of crops to harvest, such as my cauliflowers and spring forageables. Using everything I had, I could make over 50 tea saplings, which should make me a butt ton of gold in the morning. I also made my first 4 quality sprinklers, with many more on the way. I hadn't reached friendship with anyone apart from Caroline, so I thought to skip the flower dance this year to not waste a full day. My first few oak resins were ready to collect today, which was a good sign as I was going to need a load more, but this was a good start anyway. I spent most of the day clearing out yet more debris around the farm, and smelting ores of course. In the night I donated some materials to the boiler room bundle, with only a fire quartz needed to unlock the minecarts. Day 25 marks the final strawberry harvest of the season, which would save me much time watering them in the future. I went right to the lava levels to find myself a fire quartz, although I did become distracted and was determined to reach floor 100. And what was so incredibly lucky was at 1:50 AM I managed to reach floor 100 and grab my first star drop of the challenge. Phew, that was close. Day 26 started with the majority of the crops I had left over ready for harvest. I haven't been mentioning it, but I'm using the strawberries to turn them into jelly in preserve jars, as they do sell for a little bit more. I finally donated all the final materials to finish off the boiler room, which would unlock the minecarts, which will prove great in getting around the map now. The day was wrapped up fishing at the pier, as I wanted to have as much gold as possible for as many summer seeds as possible. Right now, I was on a whopping 38,000 gold, which I don't think I've ever had at this point. The penultimate day of the season was spent crafting 15 quality sprinklers, and laying out the area in which they'll go. I did want to go all out next season, and this was just the start. Instead of getting rid of the old sprinklers, I chose to move them to a new area, as they still can be quite useful to maximise the amount of crops I can grow. And to be honest, without a lot more to do, I once again collected more wood and shipped a bunch of new items. I finally did decide I was going to go with the Joja route this time, as I was going to get a lot of gold and it would allow me to get things done much quicker than the normal route. So I headed to the Joja Mart to purchase the membership for 5,000 gold. The truth is, I really wanted to reach the desert before the summer starts in order to purchase Starfruit, so this meant tomorrow I could return to the Joja Mart to buy their bus repair just in time for the summer. Day 28 was the final day of the season, and it begun by claiming a prize ticket that was hidden just behind the bookseller's stand. And then I went to the Joja Mart to spend 40,000 gold on the bus repair. Unfortunately, this left me on only 4,000 gold, which wouldn't buy me many Starfruits. But as long as I buy them within the first 14 days of the summer season, they will still have enough time to grow. And honestly, that's how I spent the final day of the season. Overall, I feel I've done quite well this season, unlocking the bus and having a load of sprinklers ready for the summer season. Let's bring it on. More gold to make. Day 29 was the start of the summer season in the challenge, and there was no time to waste. I began by hoeing the land ready for a load of summer crops. I made my first trip to the desert in the challenge, and went into the oasis to buy 24 starfruit seeds, which was definitely less than what I wanted, but after kegging it will still sell for a crazy amount. And as I mentioned yesterday, I would still have plenty of time to get more. After buying all them starfruits, I didn't have any gold to buy any others, so I spent some time fishing in the ocean to get as much gold to buy a load more tomorrow. I mainly wanted to plant some melon seeds, as they sell for the most and melon wine is worth a bit more. Day 30, I went back to the desert to buy 13 more starfruit seeds, and I wanted to try my luck inside the skull caverns. But I was shocked when I couldn't open the door. This is when I remembered I hadn't even reached the bottom of the mines yet, so I didn't have the skull key. That was stupid. So that's exactly how I spent today. I went back to the normal mines to get to floor 120, and by the end of the day, I got the skull key. Day 31 was raining, which didn't matter really as I already had sprinklers. Another great early money maker is the legendary fish roe, which I mentioned previously. So I headed to the pier to catch the crimson fish, which after some attempts I didn't even manage to get. I chose to spend the entire day here, mainly fishing for more gold to buy as much summer seeds as I could. Day 32, I returned to the ocean to purchase the iridium fishing pole, as well as some tapper bobbers to hopefully catch the crimson fish. And as it turns out, Stardew Valley is apparently paid to win, and after spending all that gold, I caught the slippery fella. So back on the farm, I emptied the largemouth bass outside the fish pond, and I replaced it with the crimson fish. Using all the gold, I purchased a butt ton of melons, which I swiftly planted and watered. After accumulating even more gold, I went back and bought 99 more, which I planted in the new crop area. Told you I wasn't messing around this season. Day 33 was definitely more relaxed than normal, as I'd finally bought all the crops and they were in the ground and growing. This time I actually had the skull key, so I could enter the skull caverns. What was quite annoying is I still hadn't gotten a prismatic shard yet, so I would have to go in with a low level weapon. It wasn't an awful trip, the lack of a good weapon slowed me down, and before I knew it I was taken out by a ghost and awoke in the hospital. Great. I was back up the next morning with 4 crimson roe from the fish pond, which I could begin turning into jelly. I was doing a bunch of things today. I was first at the ocean with the bait maker to catch some super cucumbers, as smoked ones sell for a lot. I was then back to the lower levels of the mines to reset for more iron and copper. Day 35 I received a letter in the mail from Mr. Key giving me 10,000 gold for reaching floor 25 in the skull caverns a few days ago. This would allow me to buy 32 more starfruit seeds, which I had to craft even more quality sprinklers just to cope with the demand. Then the rest of the day was spent at the ocean to catch super cucumbers, which when smoked sell for a lot of gold. So I used the bait maker so I could catch a load more. Day 36 was the beginning of the new week in the summer season, and I had some hot peppers ready, from some mixed seeds I planted a few days ago. Then I was once again back to the skull caverns. This time I made it down to floor 27, until I had to make a run for it after it turned into a monster floor. Overnight I made it to level 8 farming, which unlocked the crafting recipe for the kegs. This meant when my starfruits were ready, I could produce my first batch of starfruit wine. Day 37 began with a trip to Willie's to spend 10k on the smoker recipe. This was a quite expensive investment, but I'm hoping to make over double that with all the super cucumbers I'm about to go get, which is exactly how today went down. I spent the entire day smoking the catfish I caught from the spring season, and using the bait maker to catch even more super cucumbers. Pretty simple. So that leads us right to day 38, which I awakened with 15,000 gold after selling all the fish from yesterday. So yeah, investment well spent. I did have another batch of oak resin to collect today. Every oak resin I get will mean one more keg I can place. Yet again I was back to the oasis to buy 25 more starfruit seeds, ready to plant. I mentioned before that I have 14 days to plant them before they don't have enough time to grow, so there was still plenty of time to get some more. Of course, this meant another crop expansion, and also more watering to get them in the ground before the end of the night. Day 39 was of course the day of the luau, so I might as well skip this day. Day 40 I'm over at Clint's to pick up my steel pickaxe, and to send it straight off for an upgrade to gold. I was going to need it if I was going to keep getting further down in the skull caverns. And I spent all of my energy chopping more trees in the cindersap forest, and then chopping more trees around the farm. Day 41 is raining, and I had my first few melons ready for harvest. Because I'm so close to kegs now, I will keep them instead of shipping them. I also had some summer seeds ready to collect, which I promptly turned back into more summer seeds to turn into more tea saplings. Using all the materials I had saved up, I could craft 11 kegs, which I decided to place here for now. I wouldn't really need a shed as Meadowlands Farm has a lot of unhoeable space, so I'm keeping them out in the open for now. These new kegs meant I could send off my first batch of melons to turn into that juicy wine. Then I'm back to expanding my tree farm, keeping the oak ones of course, and chopping any other ones I see. And same as most days, I spent the remainder of it clearing debris. Day 42 was a great one, as my first batch of Starfruit was ready to harvest, and at this point we are entering Profit City. My gold pickaxe was ready to collect today. Whilst I was here I decided to buy some coal, as I was running quite low on it. Today I wanted to reset the frozen levels for even more iron, which was the only resource that was really lacking in terms of kegs. It was mostly successful, and I managed to get 33 bars of iron by the end of the day, with a lot more ore still left over. I had a load more starfruit ready today, which I crafted 12 more kegs ready for that wine. At Pierre's I bought a bunch more melon seeds to replace the starfruits with, and then I ran off to the skull caverns to try my luck once again, this time with a shiny new golden pickaxe in hand. This trip was most successful, and I managed to get enough iridium for some bars. I crafted up 3 more tappers today to place on some newly grown oak trees, and it was another large melon harvest today, which I'm also saving for kegging over the course of the 100 days. I opened some Omni Geodes at Clint's to get more artifacts for the museum, and as a reward for donating in the museum, I received a rare crow, which was quite nice and saved me crafting another one. For now though, I bought 60 wheat seeds from Pierre's to plant, mainly because there wasn't any other crops in summer worth growing now, as there wasn't enough time. Once again another resetting session, this time on floor 21 for some copper, and then 41 for some iron. Overnight I reached level 9 farming, which unlocked the crafting recipe for the iridium sprinkler, although it probably is a bit too much for me to craft at the moment. Yet another melon harvest today. If I stay patient, I'll be a millionaire in no time. I then took to the skull caverns to try and get even more iridium. I was mainly trying to get 5 bars of it to upgrade my pickaxe, and any other bars I could ship for gold. And what was pretty crazy, on floor 7, I actually found the lucky ring inside some barrels, which I didn't even know could spawn here. This was bound to come in handy. It was another great trip to the skull caverns, and I managed to bring home a lot of useful items. Day 46, the bookseller was in town, and I did spend 5,000 gold on the mining monthly book, which I could trade back to him for 20 coal. And I was back to chopping trees and smelting ores back on the farm. I used up the remaining trees and planted them. I was going to need the wood nowadays. Overnight I reached level 8 foraging. If I keep this up, I might even be able to reach the mastery cave in my first 100 days. Day 47 started with asking Clint to upgrade my axe to steel, to get access to the secret woods. For the hardwood stumps of course. I was going to need 200 pieces of hardwood to repair the boat. I also crafted up some lightning rods to hopefully get some battery packs, which is one of the materials I need for sprinklers and the boat again. I also wanted to expand my crop fields, so I made 17 more quality sprinklers, which I laid out ready for the fall season. In fall, I had plans to cover my entire farm in pumpkins, so yeah, this was very necessary. I also received my first batch of melon wine today, which would sell for a decent amount. This is what my keg empire looks like so far, getting ready for more starfruit. The rest of the day was spent clearing out the giant rocks on the farm and smelting all my copper and iron. I also made 15 more quality sprinklers. I told you the fall season isn't ready. I had another large batch of starfruit ready today. I chose to replace them with some summer seeds, which I could eventually turn into more tea saplings. Today was the start of the annual trout derby, and it can offer some nice prizes, so I took my bait maker to the river and begun looking for some tokens. After most of the day here, I received some mystery boxes, a tent kit and a crab pot. It wasn't too bad for a quick day's work. Day 49 I was over at Clint's to pick up my new steel axe and donated more artifacts to the museum. Using my new trusty axe, I could mine the stumps and access the secret woods. The only benefit of this was really the hardwood stumps, which I said before to repair the boat, and this is very necessary. I need to repair the boat to Ginger Island, as during the winter season, I won't be able to make any crops. I then was back to the final day of the trout derby, and after fishing some time, I claimed my rewards and went to bed. Overnight I reached level 10 fishing, which I chose the angler perk, which made fish worth 50% more. I should have kept all them super cucumbers now. Day 50 officially marks the halfway stage of the video, and overall I feel I've made great progress in this challenge. I won't reveal the total earnings just yet, I'll save it for the end. If you're enjoying the video, a like and subscribe would mean the world to me, and would allow me to continue making videos like this one. I also have channel memberships now, which will allow you to support the channel even more than you lovely people already do. It will give you 24-hour early access to new videos, and it will grant you access to polls to choose what I do next, whether it's games or challenges. Check it out in the video description, and let's get back to the video. After selling a bunch of tea saplings and melon wine overnight, I now had 58,000 gold, which I headed over to the Joja mart to purchase the greenhouse for 35,000 gold, which will be a great upgrade for crop space, during the winter months of course. Using the gold, I bought 57 starfruit seeds from Sandy, with plans to put them in the greenhouse. If I keep up this pace, I could even travel to Ginger Island soon. Day 51 was the annual Green Rain event, which is actually quite good for us in this challenge, as it means most of the trees I had planted would grow instantly, allowing for a crazy amount of free wood. I also had another batch of starfruit ready, which would be the last one for now. I did lay out some more sprinklers inside the greenhouse and planted the starfruits. I did have 7 starfruit rind ready to collect, so I made some more kegs and refilled them. Gosh, how many times I'm going to say starfruit in this video. Another perk of the Green Rain event is it fills the valley with fibre, which is needed for the tea sapling recipe. So unfortunately, I had to spend the entire day collecting as much as possible. Don't believe me? Well, here we are. Overnight, this is how much I made from the various things. Over 22,000 gold on the wine. Day 52 started with a trip to Clint's to send my pickaxe off for an upgrade to iridium. I was going to need it at some point, especially if I make it to the volcano on Ginger Island. I crafted up 6 more kegs today, slowly expanding the ever-growing empire. During the Green Rain event, there were so many trees in the way, so I spent some time today to clear some of them out, mainly around the keg area. I made 4 more tappers to get even more oak resin, and I made a quick trip to the secret woods to mine the hardwood stumps. And clearing out even more trees is how I spent day 52. Due to the rain yesterday, I had some battery packs ready, although I needed to save 5 to fix the boat. And once again was back to chopping trees on the farm, and collecting more hardwood from the secret woods. There wasn't really a lot I feel I could do now until fall, as I couldn't plant any more crops and was waiting on the wine inside the kegs, so I was really trying to stay productive. Overnight I reached foraging level 9, unlocking the rain totem. Although it probably won't be something I'll be making. I made over 10,000 gold overnight, mainly because of the Crimson Fish Roe, which sells for nearly 2,000 gold each. The first batch of starfruit were ready today. This would surely put me on enough gold to buy the remaining bundles from the Joja mart. And of course I replaced them all with a fresh set of starfruit. My iridium pickaxe was ready to collect, and I sent off my hoe to an upgrade to copper whilst I was here. Using my new fresh iridium pickaxe, I headed back to the skull caverns to test it out. What was even super luckier is I found a prismatic shard from an iridium ore piece on floor 28, which meant I could finally get the galaxy sword. It turned out to be a great trip, and I left on floor 50, leaving me with enough time to offer up my prismatic shard and claim the galaxy sword. Day 55 I had yet another melon harvest, and I am now on 67,000 gold, which is just incredible. I had a few more battery packs, and I harvested a bunch of summer seeds, ready to turn into tea saplings. I managed to make 240 summer seeds, which I could turn into 120 tea saplings, which after selling to Pierre put me on 97,000 gold. I purchased the bridge repair from the Joja mart, which left only panning until I could restore the community centre and repair the boat to Ginger Island, on only summer 27. To wrap up the day, I used the remainder of my energy on chopping trees and collecting even more jelly from my preserve jars. Overnight I made another 13,000 gold. Day 56 was the final day of the summer, and I began with another large batch of starfruit wine ready to collect. I then ran straight to the Joja mart to buy panning, which was the last thing I needed to restore the community centre, completing it in only 56 days. My hoe was also ready, so I picked it up before warping back to the desert for yet another Skull Caverns run. As you would all know, the final day of the summer is the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies, but it wasn't really necessary and it didn't offer anything, and I was doing really well in the Skull Caverns, so I didn't really want to leave. I was all the way down to floor 88 where I could bomb a load of materials. In the end, I came out with over 150 pieces of iridium and 2 prismatic shards. On floor 100, I received a dark cowboy hat, which I chose to wear to, buff up my style a little bit. This is the total loot I managed to get, which is pretty good if I do say so myself, with my Starfruit making over 44,000 gold overnight. Day 57 was the start of the fall season, and that did mean I had a load of debris to clear out, ready for a huge batch of pumpkins, ready to cover my entire farmland. As of right now, I was on over 100,000 gold, which I'd never seen this early on. In town, I watched the community centre turn into the Joja warehouse, which was a strange sight to see. As a reward, Morris gave me the Joja Mart vending machine, which gave 1 Joja Cola every single day. At Pierre's, I bought over 500 pumpkin seeds, which as you can imagine took ages to plant, but once they'll grow, I'll be swimming in cash. In all honesty, I was still watering and planting them into the night, but I managed to finish before the end of the day. Day 58, I received a letter from Willie letting me know about the old boat. Before I went there, I purchased a final backpack upgrade from Pierre for only 10,000 gold, which really wasn't a lot of gold for me now. I then raced down to Willie's to donate 200 pieces of hardwood, 5 battery packs, and 5 iridium bars to repair the old boat. This meant I could travel to Ginger Island in the morning. I planned to fill the remainder of the greenhouse with starfruits, so I purchased a bunch from the oasis and made up 4 iridium sprinklers to water them all. I then wrapped up the day chopping more trees that had grown around the farm and shipping some starfruit wine. With the Ginger Island trip planned tomorrow, I filled my inventory with everything I needed, such as bombs, slingshot, and some furniture for some golden walnuts. Day 59 started with yet more oak resin. This time I moved the tappers on closer trees for convenience reasons, of course. I crafted up more kegs and filled them with melons. This was the Empire right now. Before I went to Ginger Island, I headed up to the mountains to collect my copper pan from Willie, and then begun the long boat ride to the island. This was honestly such a surreal feeling. It was crazy to already be on Ginger Island, only a few days into fall. What's the earliest you guys have ever made it to Ginger Island? Please let me know. This is the earliest I've ever been here. There was no time to waste though. I want to unlock the island farm as quick as possible to fill it with more starfruit. I also really wanted to get 100 golden walnuts to access Mr. Key's walnut room. He does offer some useful quests such as the extended family, which will allow me to catch some legendary fish, which Roe sells for a lot of gold. But for now though, I did the usual Ginger Island activities, and I collected a bunch of easy golden walnuts. I gave the parrot 10 golden walnuts to access the island farm. I also tried to complete this horrible memory puzzle, which is the worst thing ever. Does anyone even like this? Let me know in the comments so I can report and block you, honestly. To no one's surprise, after hours in here I didn't even manage to do it. So I had to spend the entire night in the tent to try again first thing in the morning. Day 60 I was straight back to the cave to finish this horrible puzzle, which I actually managed to get on my first attempt. Perhaps I treated you too harshly. I had enough golden walnuts to access the dig site, where using a bomb I could free Professor Snail from the cave. I would need Professor Snail and his field office to unlock even more golden walnuts. Although right now I was less interested about golden walnuts than I was about clearing up the island farm. I really wanted to get it up and running, so I did exactly that. I also thought about completing the Pirate's Locket quest, although I did completely forget that you need Kent, who doesn't even arrive until the second year in the valley, so that was a waste of time. Back on the farm I had the biggest starfruit wine collection of the video, with 15 bottles of it, which I replaced with melons from the summer season. The rest of day 60 was spent smelting a butt ton of bars, for any future endeavours I might have. I begun day 61 by crafting 10 more kegs to add to the Empire. I was then back at Robin's to ask her to build me another fish pond. I had plans to catch the anglerfish, and so I needed a place for it to go. At Clint's I sent off my watering can for an upgrade, and began trying to catch the anglerfish. Out of all the legendary fish, this was definitely the easiest one, and it wasn't much trouble. I then took to the volcano to explore it for the first time, until I realised you need your watering can to cross, so that was stupid of me. I wanted to use the quarry to build a giant tree and oak resin farm, so I took some bombs and cleared it out. While I was here I could enter the quarry cave and collect my golden scythe. It took the entire day to clear it out fully, but by the end I began laying out the foundations for it. I started the day by demolishing more trees around the farm, and then I went to Ginger Island to clear out the island farm. This did take the entire day, but I was also smelting ores and quartz while I was here to fill the island full of quality sprinklers. Day 63 I placed the anglerfish inside the newly made fish pond, and then I went to Clint's to pick up my copper watering can, and then sent off my hoe for an upgrade to steel. Gold was the main material I was lacking for quality sprinklers, so I spent the rest of the day resetting floor 81. Day 64 started with placing a batch of starfruit which had fully grown inside the greenhouse, and making 26 more sprinklers, upping my total to 39. Fall 8 was blackberry season, so I did find and hand Linus his blackberry basket, and went to the bookseller to check out his stock. I did decide to purchase the price catalogue for 3000 gold, and also Way of the Wind Part 1 for a speed boost. I could also access special orders, so I chose Fragments of the Past from Gunther, which tasked me to collect 100 pieces of bone, which should be nice and easy now I can access the dig site. Talking of Ginger Island, I began laying out the sprinklers for the vast amounts of starfruits I'm planning to plant here. I was then at the volcano, not for anything specific, mainly for golden walnuts and to reach the summit. It was late into the day, but I did manage to reach the top and claim my prismatic shard from the forge. Day 65 I made 7 more cakes to place down, and made my way to the desert to buy 199 starfruit seeds to plant on Ginger Island. I did have just enough golden walnuts to rebuild the house and the mailbox, and began planting all the starfruits. And what was crazy is I still had more space than I had seeds. And to no one's surprise, watering them took me all the way into the night, and I did manage to finish it all before the end of day 65. I was back on the farm to collect yet another batch of melon wine. You know how it goes by now. And I spent the rest of the day clearing out debris and chopping trees. There wasn't really much for me to do right now, rather than just wait for the wine to grow, wait for my crops to grow, keg the crops, and then wait. Day 67 I was back to smelting more ores, and I also made a quick trip to Clint to buy loads of iron ore, which I needed for some kegs. I wanted to get all the dwarf scrolls in order to speak to him and purchase some mega bombs, so I went to floor 21 to hoe the ground for one. Although, after some tries, I realised this would take way too long and too much time, so I took to the frozen levels to slay some dust sprites and farm for even more iron. Day 68 I collected some more aged roe, which was selling for nearly 10,000 gold each time, and of course expanded my kegs even more. On Ginger Island I went back into the volcano in search of more golden walnuts. It didn't turn out to be a bad trip, and I did find the final bone to finish Professor Snail's field office, receiving some golden walnuts as a reward. Day 69 I had enough golden walnuts to restore the island resort, which meant I could collect a few more golden walnuts from the east side of the island. I was then at Clint's to send off my axe for another upgrade to iridium, and also to donate the 100 pieces of bone to the museum in order to tick off the special order from Gunther. I decided to spend the rest of the day back on Ginger Island, searching for any more golden walnuts I had missed previously. Today marks the first harvest of some of my pumpkins. Annoyingly, it seems I planted them too late, so I'd have to wait until tomorrow till the rest of them grow. Yet again I collected even more wine and expanded the keg empire. I chose to buy a load of cranberries to replace them, as why not really? There wasn't anything important I can grow in fall now, as it was too late, so cranberries it is. I was then at Robin's to ask her to build me another fish pond, and met with the wizard tasking me to find the dark talisman to unlock the witch's swamp. So I went straight down to the sewers to meet Krobus and purchase my second star drop from him for 20,000 gold. And also a void egg for the void mayo. The mutant bug lair wasn't tough, and I also managed to find the dark talisman while I was down here. I then used the dark talisman to access the witch's swamp, which is where I can catch the void salmon, which is another great fish pond fish. I then returned later in the night with some void mayonnaise in order to distract the guard and collect the wizard's magic ink. Day 71 was obviously the day the rest of my pumpkins were ready, yielding over 400 in total, and instead of saving them, I chose to sell them, as this was a 100-day challenge and I wouldn't have time to keg them all before the end of it. I did have to plant over 400 cranberries in their place, but the land was already hoed and watered, so it didn't take me too long. I did decide to purchase 100 salads from the saloon, which will be very useful until the end of the challenge for any health and energy issues. Day 72 started by crafting 10 more kegs, and was also the day of the Stardew Valley Fair, which can offer a star drop, so I gathered some random items and showed them off. It turned out I won the first prize, which gave me enough tokens, after some light gambling, to buy the rare crow and the star drop. Before nightfall, another large batch of wine was ready, which I replaced with more melon and starfruits. Day 73 marked a great achievement in this challenge. I woke up to see the achievement Millionaire, for reaching 1 million gold in total earnings, which was pretty good. This is what my total earnings look like at this stage. Head into the comments right now and try and guess what I'll finish on, and by the end, I reckon it'll be nowhere near what you think it will be. Another fish pond had finished construction on the farm, so I harvested another batch of oak resin and made a butt ton more kegs, before placing the void salmon into its new home. The tree farm in the quarry was coming along quite well, but I did end up setting this up too late, so it wouldn't really be useful now. With all the gold I now had, I rode the bus to the desert to buy over 300 starfruit seeds to fully fill the Ginger Island farm. This is how much I planted by the end of the day. These next 30 days will be where I make the most gold out of the entire video. Day 74 was as repetitive as they get. I collected yet more oak resin and placed more tappers. I did pick up Robin's resource rush from the special orders board, which tasked me to collect 1,000 pieces of wood. So on Ginger Island I chopped down every tree possible to get it done. I also wanted to explore the volcano a bit more, but I just sent off my watering can again, so I couldn't even move on floor 1 without it, so yeah, another wasted volcano trip. Day 75 was spent mooching around the valley, chopping trees and clearing up the farm. Day 76 I went to Clint's to upgrade my hoe to gold, with all my tools now close to iridium, which was just a flex at this point to be honest, and gives me something to do while I wait for my kegs to produce the wine. I was back to the volcano again today to collect more gold and walnuts, and I did manage to find a hot Java ring on floor 9, which was quite nice. At the forge I combined my lucky ring and hot Java ring using 20 cinder shard. The pirates were also partying inside the island cave, so I played some darts to receive 3 more gold and walnuts. Day 77 was the first cranberry harvest. I was going to ship all of them as there wasn't really enough time to do anything with them. And it was at this point I decided to start skipping some nights. There wasn't really any time left in the challenge to do anything big, except some light chores every now and then, shipping wine, harvesting crops, and kegging really. So that leads us to day 78, where I had another large cranberry harvest giving me nearly 999 of them, all shipped for profit of course. I went to Clint's to crack open a golden walnut, and it gave me a golden walnut hat, which looks great and really suits this challenge to be completely honest. Back on the island farm I had the biggest harvest of starfruit of this entire challenge, all of which was going into kegs. Whilst I had the golden walnuts, I chose to build the island warp to walk back to the farm more easily. There was still enough time for more starfruit to grow, so I purchased 281 more from Sandy and returned to plant them all. Day 79 started the same as pretty much everyone, collecting more roe, oak resin, and then the wine and replacing them with a fresh batch. Although, I would have to be careful now, as we enter the last couple days of the challenge. I had to make sure they weren't still kegging after the 100 days has passed, as they wouldn't count towards the challenge. Skipping over to day 80, I crafted up 17 more kegs and filled them up with a fresh load of starfruit and melons. Wine typically takes 7 days to make, so that meant I had until winter 9th until I couldn't keg anymore. After showing the gourmet frog the melon that I had grown on the island farm, I finally had enough walnuts to enter Mr. Key's walnut room. Although, it was really too late now, and if I got this done much earlier, I could have taken full advantage of his place. I slept over day 81 and day 82, so that leads us on to day 83. I had a load of cranberries ready to collect across the entire farm, which took forever to collect, but would sell for a great amount now. Yet more wine was ready, and it was Spirit's Eve today, but it didn't offer anything towards a challenge, so I just slept over it. Day 84 marks the final day of the fall season, and it started by collecting more roe, before calling it in for the season. Day 85 is the official start of the winter season, and obviously the new winter season meant I couldn't grow any more crops, which was why reaching Ginger Island before the winter season was crucial. But now, it was pretty much a waiting game. Before sleeping, I did craft up some more kegs. Day 86 was one of the final harvests of starfruit wine, which was sure to sell for hundreds of thousands of gold. I did choose to find Krobus hiding in the bush to collect the magnifying glass, and in all honesty, the rest of these days were literally spent sleeping, collecting starfruit, kegging the starfruit, shipping the wine, so that's it. Which brings us on to day 100, where I had one final batch of starfruit ready inside the kegs. Right now, I was on 1.9 million gold, and since the challenge was over, I decided to ship as much as I could inside the chests for the maximum number. And to wrap up the challenge, my total final earnings for the 100 days challenge was 3,409,115 gold, which was just an incredible achievement. Well, for me anyway. There was plenty of things I could definitely have improved on, especially getting to Ginger Island a lot sooner. But this was extremely fun to do. I would love to hear any tips on how I could have made even more gold. And any suggestions for any new challenges you'd love me to tackle would be great as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and check out channel memberships in the description. I've been BitGamerTom, and thanks for watching.